Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's Beyond the Tech podcast. I am Neda Maria Kaisumi, your host, and with us, we are honored to have Miss Astrid Skaugseth as our guest. Astrid is a dynamic leader with a proven track record in business process improvement, change management, strategy, and financial analysis. As the CEO of She Community, she is at the forefront of driving gender equality in leadership, ensuring that businesses, investors, and policymakers take concrete steps toward a more inclusive and diverse corporate landscape. With a strong focus on execution, she has successfully turned strategies into action, creating measurable impact in organizations. Her career spans key leadership roles where she has helped businesses navigate complex change, optimize processes, and align financial strategies with long term growth. Her ability to combine analytics insight with a hands on approach makes her a respected voice in both corporate and entrepreneurial circles. Beyond her executive leadership, Astrid serves as a board member at multiple organizations, bringing her expertise in governance, strategy, and stakeholder management to the table. She's also deeply committed to social impact, reflected in her role as a board member at Stiftelsen Sykehusbarn, an organization dedicated to supporting hospitalized children. Her leadership blends business acumen with a strong sense of purpose, making her an influential advocate for both corporate responsibility and social progress. Through her work, Astrid continues to champion innovation, sustainability, and diversity, ensuring that leadership in the future is not only effective but also inclusive. Welcome to this show, Astrid. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that I got invited to this podcast.
Thank you. Astrid, can you start by sharing a bit about your journey? What led you to become the CEO of She Community, and what drives your passion for promoting women in leadership?
Well, my journey actually, I almost spent my entire career in EY or in Ernst and Young, where I spent 20 years, and it was within that role, or in 2019, I started to work with She Community. So. EY was working together with She Community, where we, in collaboration, created the She Index. And also EY was the gold partner for the She Conference back then. So in 2021, Heidi Aven, who is the founder of She Community, she came to me and asked if I could consider to join as the new CEO, as the client of She wanted to touch upon topic which is beyond working with gender balanced. So I needed to think about that a bit because, like I had a good position in EY. At that time, I was the Nordic sustainability lead. And like moving from a global ship towards a small scale up was something I just needed to think about. But for me, like the vision for She, which is promoting change to all are included, actually is very aligned with my personal values. And I also thought, like this is my chance to use my competence and experience from the corporate world and be a bridge to all the other people, organizations, NGOs, startups, students, to actually try to explain why the social aspect is so important in order to meet the environmental and the economic goals. So it was a bit, like fun, because it was a lot of people who actually reached out to me and said, like they were a bit concerned about my mental health when I took that choice. But for me, it was really, really the right thing to do. And I am also, like very humble to take over the great work that Heidi Aven and Lynn Cecilia Linnemann has done, because they have created a really, really strong brand within She, but also the work that they have done to empower women to get into leadership positions. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was the journey, and I haven't regret.
Well, that's
Uh,
truly inspiring, I should say, Astrid.
mm,
And I think it's clear that your journey has been driven by a strong sense of purpose and a commitment to change, at least to me.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, no, I think this is very important work, especially when we look at the geopolitical climate, the debate that we have around all diversity indicators, and not least inclusion part, which is near to my heart, which I guess we will come into a bit later in the podcast. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
Well, I think despite the progress being made, there are still many challenges existing. So that brings me to my next question: that what are some of the biggest challenges women still face in leadership today, and how she community working to bridge these gaps?
Mm. Well, I must also just mention that since since I started in this position back in 2022, we have done some internal changes within She community. I am now the CEO of She Conference. So what we did was that we reintroduced She to social human equity. And we did that because we are still anchored in empowering women, but we also look at the other diversity indicators as well. Because and back to your question, what have we done to empower women, and what kind of challenges do we still face? I think the biggest challenge women still face is unconscious biases. And I also think that we need to look back. We need to look back at structure, like cultures, um, structures, and like bad habits in a way. Because what I sense when I am out speaking around this is not it's not decision made out of bad will. It's decision made out of unconscious biases, but also a bit quick because we are using the networks that are close to us. And the fact is that people within the decision tables and also with the capital today are men. And I am not discriminating men because I truly believe that we need to invite men in order to create this change. But the fact is that we need to collaborate and we need to build the awareness around why women should also have a place around the table, which I of course think is a given. Um, my claim is actually that I don't think we would have seen all the geopolitical turbulence if we have had more diversity around the decisions tables around the world.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Well, that's such an important perspective, Astrid. And I think it really shed light on some of the systematic barriers that still exist. And it's encouraging to see how She community, and especially you, is actively working towards overcoming those challenges and creating a space for more diverse leadership. Now, shifting gears a bit, you work closely with companies and investors. What role do you play in shaping a more diverse and inclusive leadership landscape?
Well, my role is actually to invite all organization and people in. What we are doing within the She conference is that we have the arena and we are inviting people in with different perspectives in order to have a balanced debate. Because what I see now is that the debate climate around gender, around generations, around ethnicity, I think the climate that we have now is actually increasing the polarization instead of having a conversation which is increasing value, right? So what we are doing in my role is to actually set the tone a bit, but also to invite all those people in and let them have their voice, but try to engage people in a conversation where we are having a value creation instead of increased polarization.
Exactly. I think it's vital, and you have a vital role to play in creating more inclusive leadership environment. And we see that more and more companies are, getting unsure that how they have to handle this special
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah, they do. And also, I think, like the DE&I debate and the backlash that we are seeing on that these days, I think we should, like take a breath and maybe think about what is common sense here, because it is all about that. And also maybe rephrase the way we are talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I usually say that I think that we are talking about these topics in the wrong way. We should actually start with the inclusion part, because if we as human beings get more inclusive, I think we will also reach the equity and the diversity part as well. So it is very important to not, like treat the DE&I agenda as a bingo board. Like we should, like think of how I as a leader and you as a leader actually are when we are meeting new people, talking to new people, and that we need to respect that other people have other perspectives. We don't need to agree.
Totally.
But we need to go into the conversation in order to try to understand and learn more.
I agree. Exactly. Well, with digital transformation happening so rapidly, it's fascinating to think about how these tools could influence diversity and inclusion in leadership. How do you see AI and technology shaping the landscape?
Well, I think AI has a immense potential to drive social progress, but it must be developed responsible to ensure that we have the fairness, the inclusion, and not least the ethical governance around this. I also think we should treat, and maybe some people will get a bit angry on me saying this, but I don't think we should, I think we should treat AI as a tool and not a replacement for human intervention.
Exactly. I think that's, well, it's a conversation I really enjoy and would like to touch more upon it. But considering the time, I think that's such an insightful point, Astrid. But while AI holds incredible potential, it's true that it's also can have perpetual biases if not handled carefully, as you said. So, with that in mind, how do you think businesses and technologies should approach AI to ensure it supports diversity rather than hindering it?
Well, they should use it, like because, but they should be aware that the data that still exists, like the big data could include, like not a very diverse data. So again, like have the awareness around what kind of data we are dealing with. But using, like, for example, AI in hiring and education practices, I think it's a very, very good idea because, and I see you actually get now very good AI tools like blind recruitments, where you focus more on skills rather than the demographics, which I think is very good. And also with respect to learning, AI is great to actually include people, so that even more people get access to education. And I think that is so important when we talk about the sustainability agenda, for sure.
Exactly. And ensuring that AI is in use in a way fostering inclusion rather than reinforcing bias. I think this is crucial for success. It's inspiring to think about the companies that are leading the way in this space, like what you said, using the blind recruiting.
Mm.
Are there any
Yeah.
example of companies or technologies you've seen successfully leveraging AI to create more inclusive workplaces? Like example of companies using this blind recruiting?
No, I don't have no, which I can say for sure, but I know that many of the biggest, like companies in Oslo now are touching upon this. But I don't want to name drop any in case they are
Of
not.
course, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I have these discussions with many of, like the biggest consultancy companies, and not at least the tech houses.
Yeah.
So I think you should, like address that question to them.
I
Mm.
understand. Thank you. Well, now shifting gears to more urgent issue. A couple of my Harvard colleagues and I are working on an AI model to reduce or kind of saying stop school shooting in US. This problem hadn't reached Scandinavia until a couple of weeks ago that unfortunately we witnessed a mass shooting in Sweden. How close do you think this event is to Norway, and how important will it be for technologies to focus on using AI to help reduce the school shooting? And also, how do you evaluate the impact of such an event on creating sustainable society?
Mm. Yeah, that is a tough question. Sadly, I don't think sadly, I think maybe this kind of event could happen in Norway as well. But with that said, when I have read up on this, it seems like, compared to Sweden, we still have some values in Norway that is, that we are looked at as a more safe country, which I think is good. But like using AI to enhance school safety, I think could be a good idea. But again, it should not replace the human judgment or community engagement. And also with respect to the ethical part of this, like where does that balance actually go? To like, so I think actually that is a bit tough. But yes, I think AI, like that can prevent this, maybe pick up some early signs. And also, because this is often also in correlation with mental health. So I think, like AI can also be used to pick up signs. For example, like looking at your social media accounts, like and all that stuff, what they are doing. And there are people who knows even more about this than me. But again, using AI as a tool to actually prevent and support is a yes from me. But again, not replace, like human judgment. Mm.
Absolutely. And thank you for that thoughtful insight, Astrid. We are also thinking about that. Now, last but not least, if you had just one big idea for how technology could make leadership more inclusive and fair, what would that be?
Yeah, leadership. I think what could be good is to once a month, each leader has to take a unconscious biases test. And they should also reveal to their colleagues what they have done the last week, which is more, like inclusive actions. Like, so, because I don't think that a leadership team could actually add inclusion on the strategy work, and then the leaders go out from that meeting and doing the exact same thing as they did yesterday. So I think, like awareness building often is actually very important, because this is continuously work. It's not something that you can do once or twice. You need to train that. You need to train. And I am doing that, like I actually look at myself as a very inclusive person. And but again, I am so surprised of my own unconscious biases each day. So I need to challenge myself. So yeah, so that is my tip for all leaders. Challenge yourself, and also be a bit transparency of the wrong things that you have done, like, and dare to have those conversations as well. Because that is my biggest fear now, is that we as leaders or human beings, we are a bit afraid to talk about this, because we are afraid to do and say something wrong. So we need to keep the dialogue there.
Well, I'm sitting here laughing, thinking that what will my result look like when I take the test?
Exactly. Exactly.
It's extremely inspiring, and I'm enjoying this conversation. I hope those who are listeners, they can also consider taking this. I will do that as you recommended. I think that will help for personal growth.
Yeah, you will, and you will get some surprises, I guess,
for sure,
as I do.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time and insight. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure that our listeners has a lot to take away from this conversation as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Astrid Skaugseth. Thank you.